There we go. Thanks very much, all. And my name is Tony Simonson. I'm the leader of the PayApps organisation across Australia and New Zealand, one of the leaders in construction payment management. We are delighted to be sponsoring this event, and especially the seminar with some great speakers. And hopefully you'll get immense value from the conversation today. First, let me introduce our three speakers. We have Jess Jones. Jess is the head of strategy at Balmain & Company, who are a leading provider of contemporary projects headquartered in Melbourne. We have Jeff Gawley. Jeff is and has had a deep history at very senior levels with organisations across Australia who are very, very focused on building these new environments that house very diverse communities nowadays. And finally, Matt Love. Matt is the co-founder of Connector, which is a jobs platform with a difference, as they say, that helps companies and candidates in construction and engineering connect. So thank you for joining us today. Today is all about the construction workplace of the future and how that has changed in recent months and years. And certainly for all of us, I think the way in which we work has changed dramatically over this year, but certainly over the last 5 years, we've seen immense change that hopefully we'll dive into today. Certainly the changes in the workplace have been driven by the converging trends of people and their needs, and certainly how people want to work, which we think is important, how digital transformation has had an impact on how we work, and finally how construction itself has changed as well, and the way construction is being performed today versus how it might have been formed a decade ago. So in terms of questions, I just want to go to the panelists and just ask some questions and help get the dialogue going. And I might go to Jeff first, if it's okay. Jeff, can you just talk a little bit more about how we've seen some of the key technological and societal trends that you've experienced over your time and your career, and what you see taking place over the next few years in construction?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Fantastic. Yeah, look, going back more than 25 years when I started in design and property and construction, the brick mobile phone was revolutionary at the time, and then say to move into emails. But we use a lot of carbon copy books, pen and paper, reams of drawings on sites, and it was very old school when you look back on it now. But we still managed to build amazing buildings and get projects delivered on budget and on time. But I think I've lived through that actual digital transformation, and being really passionate about technology, I was an early adopter, and so got involved in quite a lot of that. The advent of AConnex, that document management system was fantastic. BIM and GIS also being introduced into projects, so I was lucky enough to work on some of those with Hanson Yuncken, and being at the cutting edge. And we saw the productivity benefits, just the efficiencies, reduced loss, reduced profit risk, I suppose, loss of profit risk. All of these advents of technology just made delivering those projects a lot smoother and a lot better. You could pick things up a lot earlier as well. And then the collaboration, so between architects, consultants, on-site, in the office, that collaboration started to happen a lot more seamlessly. And issues still happen on site, but at least you can manage them and jump on them pretty quickly now. And then I had the privilege of being on the early advisory board of PayApps, and I had experienced that progress claim issue firsthand in having to manage that process in an Excel spreadsheet. And so the advent of that was just amazing. It really made life a lot easier. So yeah, having lived through that, I've seen where construction process has definitely been improved. On the societal side, I think we've moved away from functional aspects into more about how people work, how people want to work, what tools can we give them to make them more efficient in their roles, and make that a lot easier. And that's been a real fundamental shift, particularly in the last 5 years, and apps for everything that you can imagine now, which I love, again, early adopter. It's just really changing, and I think that digital transformation it's here. Not everyone's on board yet, and I think Perhaps some of the subbies are also a bit slow to get on board, and that can be an issue. So we need to help them on that journey, and the various tiers of building companies. We also need to ensure that, you know, best practices shared, that government get behind this digital transformation that's happening, and support that real shift, because it's better for everyone.
Absolutely. I think in talking to a customer yesterday, and I actually feel that for all of us, we have a responsibility around education of the industry. And I think that's something we take very seriously, and I know you do as well, around how do we help the industry understand how better to do things rather than telling, and that educational process begins today. Jess, you're at the coalface, right? So you work in a construction firm, you're actively out there building things. What are some of the changes you've experienced, both in how you work in the business, but also how the business is run and how you go about doing things nowadays versus perhaps a number of years ago?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I started, well, my first job with Balmain & Co. That was 5 or 6 years ago now. So definitely seen some changes, not dissimilar to Jeff. I think there was a lot more Excel, a lot more paperwork, printing of documents, plans were a massive thing, getting them printed, and every update delivered to the office or the site every other day as things were updated. And yeah, so again, everything from the pre-construction has now gone online. So all of our tendering and estimating, using social media to get quotes and information out there about our live projects, things like that. And then all the way through on-site construction. So our health and safety has moved from a good old whiteboard, you know, putting up who's on site today, how many, that sort of thing, to, you know, online inductions. Everything's online. We use Hammer Tech. I'm sure there's similar programs out there, software. It's just an online database for all of our inductions, swims, everything, safety procedures, the whole lot. So all of that's moved online. All of the so we used AConnect for a long time, and we've just moved to Procore. So again, moving to different technologies that we think will be better for us. And then, yeah, all the way through our progress claims and everything else. I mean, we're using things like drones. We've purchased some drones, which has, yeah, been really interesting, helping us there. And yeah, I mean, with COVID especially, we've seen, I guess, an acceleration in some things that I think will stick around. So the QR system, which has been revolutionary for us to know exactly who's on site, when, where, and yeah, just that sort of level of documentation has now just become the norm. So I think for us that's been really good. Things in terms of, from more of a business perspective, things like your go-tos and your Zooms, I think it will be really interesting to see what sticks and what doesn't. I know obviously we're online now, and there's some amazing opportunities that I think we will see and that will stick around for a long time and give people the option to attend things that they might not have, whether that's a personal circumstance or a location situation. You know, we'll have that opportunity. But for us particularly, I think given that we are currently, all of our sites are in Melbourne, it's highlighted the fact that there's nothing that can really replace that connection, that interaction face to face, especially with meetings. So yeah, I think for us personally, it's really just highlighted how much we really do need that face to face personal interaction in meetings, especially with our clients and consultants, and in early stage design phase. It's really highlighted how important it is. Yeah, it's been good and bad, and a lot of things have come out of it. We have actually just started up in Brisbane as of 2 weeks ago, and I think that the online technology, especially around your meetings and things like that, has probably pushed us to give us the confidence to be able to do that and still operate mostly from Melbourne. So that's been really positive. But yeah, lots of things have changed, but this year I think there's only been a few things that I think will really stick. I think construction's still going to be a little bit slower to pick up on other bits and pieces of future technology. So
well, thanks, Jeff. I think, as you say, the balance of using technology and that face-to-face conversation is going to be incredibly important for all of us moving forward, for sure. Just going to go back to Jeff again, if it's okay. So, Jeff, there's a little bit of a fear that automation could make people redundant, but there's a counter argument that says that we can use automation to perhaps look at some of we'll call it the lower value activities, and then redeploy our resources to focus on higher value activities. Now, we do that at PayApps. Obviously, we help in that efficiency process, but do you think that fear is still applicable in construction, or do you think we're moving beyond that?
Look, I agree. I think there is a fear there, but I think that expertise, experts, and experience will never be redundant. I think you've got to have that in construction, and people earn that over decades of time on working on various types of projects and various types of systems. So I think those experts are always going to be present. The different technologies that come through, accessing data is fantastic, and having automation around that. The advent of digital twins is amazing for the construction and infrastructure sector, but humans still need to interpret that, get those insights, make decisions. What is the right decision to make? And whilst that is emerging and being integrated, you definitely need to have that experience and expertise at the forefront to make all of that work. So whilst there will be some jobs that go, I think the opportunity is to reskill younger people or older people, be able to reskill them in different roles that are higher value roles. So I think the next 10 years is going to see huge growth in cities, urban developments, precincts, infrastructure spend. The stimulus coming is significant, and we saw this previously in, say, the building education revolution, where we all learn about schools. I know at HY we had a GIS system across 1,200 schools that we were delivering, and that helped us map all the data associated with those rooms. So that was an early iteration of that. So yeah, look, I don't think people need to be worried, other than the ones that aren't willing to learn and aren't willing to change. They should be worried.
That final point's a really good one. Hey, it is about embracing what's around us as much as anything, isn't it? So Matt, some of our recent webinars, which have been, I think, very informative right throughout the pandemic, and I think have helped educate, featured companies like Capital Group and ADCO who've really embraced this digital first mindset, and I think it's setting them apart in construction for sure. As a recruiter, specifically in the construction industry, what are some of the impacts that you can put down to the role that technology plays?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's about, we're all looking, every business, and I'm sure Jess will agree, is they're looking for young, 28 to 35 young progressive talent, and they want to go to businesses that are not just thinking 1-2 years ahead or one project ahead, but are thinking about 10 years, 15 years ahead. Where are we going to be? Because the construction, it's inevitable that things are going to change. They're not going to keep going the way that they have been, and the businesses that are progressive are far more attractive to that young talent. If you look at, even if we look at Capital Group, the type of talent they've been able to get in the door. Look at ADCO, the work that they've won, and the talent they're getting in the door as well. They're setting themselves up for the next 15, 20 years. There's opportunities there, obviously, for growth. There's direct paths for to become a coordinator or a CA, into PM, into construction manager with those businesses. But also, they're embracing that technology. They're showing that they're not just thinking in 2020 or 2021, but they're thinking about 2030, 2025, etc. So yeah. I think that's what's really attractive to good young construction talent, is businesses who are not just you know, they're not just joining one company for one project, right? They're joining a company, you know, to build a career and to take their career forward. You know, everyone's very obviously career focused and career minded, and so I think we've seen, particularly over the last 6 months, that businesses who embrace technology, you know, it's just a difference. It's a different value add as well. You know, it's not just like we're building these great projects, but you know, we've also rolled out this system, that system. You know, we're using Hamatech, we're working with PayApps, you know, we're thinking about the future, not just you know, you delivering this you know, $25 million apartment project. I think that's been the real, you know, it's just a great value add. It's something that people look for when they're choosing their next employer, which, you know, and ultimately these good young people help businesses grow. Like that's what grows your business. It's not obviously the leaders, you know, drive the direction of the business, but you can't grow without your people. So and having good people to take on that journey. And you know, it's not saying that, you know, the 50-year-old site manager is redundant, but I think it's about, you know, like Jeff said, is bringing them on that journey and sort of helping them integrate, you know, to come on that journey with you as well. Like that's a challenge for many businesses, because you still can't replace experience. You still need that experience. You know, some of these guys have got 30, you know, 20, 30 years site experience. So you can't just let that walk out the door because they're adverse to technology. So it's about, you know, training them and bringing them on that journey with you as well. And I think it's just yeah.
Well, I think it's a mindset change, isn't it? It's our job is to provide an environment where people feel comfortable to go through that change. So it goes as much to culture as anything, doesn't it?
Well, that's right. Like it's about seeing that culture, and you know, I guess if you embrace technology, you're seen as quite obviously very progressive, and you know how that is also viewed by clients as well. I think I don't know, Jess can probably answer a bit better, but I think that they also respond well to that, because again, you're not just thinking about, oh, we're going to slap this apartment job up for you and you know that's it. You know, we're going to give you access. We use this technology, we're using drones, where all these different things to build your project and to ensure that it's you know, built to how you want it. You know, and that's sort of, I think it's not just attractive for potential staff, but also for clients and for clients as well.
Definitely. So I'm going to go to Jess if that's okay. So, you know, we talk about technology, obviously, but you know, there's going to be a training component to all of this. So you talked about all those cool things that you're doing differently. We've got to educate people to use them to get the best effectiveness out of them, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and we've spoke about this at length with our team. So we're relatively young in terms of our you know, directors all the way down, and we've, you know, as Matt was saying, getting people in quite young. We've just started a grad program so that we can train our guys up right from the very start in the programs, processes, procedures, technologies that we as a company love and want to use, and then that follows all the way through. But the hardest thing for us, I think, is the training, not in terms of the how to use this. You know, I think at this point, 90% of people could probably figure it out if they really wanted to. It's actually just getting them to want to do it. So our biggest problem, and this goes from some of our, well, just a range of people, but mostly in our subcontractors, clients, consultants, things like that could use it if they wanted to, if they really wanted to, but we're finding that the training that is, the onus is on us, is to actually educate them of why it's important to them, why it's important to us, how it will benefit them in their day-to-day job, how it will make their job more efficient, and as Jeff was saying, not necessarily take over their role and make them redundant, but actually enhance or just take away some of the minuscule tasks that, you know, they might not want to do anyway, and just really advertise it and educate them into how and why it's important to them as well. Because yeah, I think that that is the most important thing. A lot of the systems and processes and these technologies that we're using aren't sort of designed to be very forward. They're very simple. Anyone who has a phone or a laptop can send an email, can probably figure out how to use a lot of these programs. But it's the mindset of getting them to do it. We were talking about it the other day in the example of the QR codes, and just some of the resistance we've had, or the, oh, never done it before, I don't know how to use it. But then they go to a pub, and in order to sit down at a pub now and order a meal and order a drink, you've got to scan in, and you know, it doesn't seem to be an issue then. So it's literally a mindset thing as opposed to purely how to use this training program.
Yeah, what a great point. What a great point. In community sports, you've all got to check in using COVID apps. And what I was part of was, you know, kids actually saying, I don't have a phone, I can't check in, I need to do it manually. I'm sort of going, well, hang on, you use it for social media all the time. So, you know, apply to that as well. What you're saying is you're turning threat into opportunity, aren't you? You're saying you might feel threatened by the technology, but the reality is it equals opportunity to do new things, to contribute differently. And I think that's a really important message I think we can all play. So Matt, you know, that then goes to this begs the question around, you know, employer of choice, great place to work. How do we go about building organisations that attract the best caliber of employee? How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, I think if we look back, even, you know, right back to graduate programs, and when, you know, graduates are looking for their first job, right? Traditionally, they've always gone to they've gone straight to the tier ones, right? To ProBuild, Multiplex, Lend-Lease, you know, because that's always been that's where I need to go. I think that's changing a bit. I think there was a study earlier in the year where they said that the most important thing to graduates was they want to know the environmental impact that the builder that they were working for, and more about their environmental strategy and sustainability strategy. I think it's like builders don't communicate that very well. Firstly, I don't think they market themselves, you know, particularly on the softer stuff that well. Obviously, they announce that, you know, we've won a $200 million project, or we've won this or won that, or we've delivered this, but rarely do they touch on that. You know, why would someone want to work there? You know, why? It's not just about the projects now. It's about, you know, people are starting to think about their legacy. And, you know, I built this project, but, you know, it was, you know, Green Star, and had this amount of sort of affordable housing. And I think young people particularly, are much more concerned about the environmental impacts of what they're doing. So I think it's about, obviously, you've got to communicate that firstly. At graduate level, and I think that's how, you know, tier 2, tier 3, and smaller builders, probably with less recognised graduate programs, can attract, you know, the really strong graduate talent. And then I guess, you know, looking upwards to, you know, future PMs and future site managers, and how to attract. It's just about, like, I find that it's just marketing, I think, and communicating your story and what you stand for to the building community. Like, as I said, we don't do it very well, I don't think. There's some builders that do it really well, and, you know, and if I look at Capital Group, for example, they market themselves really well. I think people know what they stand for. They know, you know, everyone knows they use pay apps. Everyone knows they use Hammer Tech because they put that out there, and they market that. So when people are, you know, if I'm looking for a job, I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind going somewhere that, you know, is forward thinking, embracing new technologies. And I've heard, you know, Capital Group or ADCO or whoever are sort of leading the way, leading the charge there. Whereas if I'm, you know, I might be working in tier 1 with clunky systems, it's hard to get things done, it's slow, it's very, there's a lot of menial tasks. I want to go to a smaller builder who's embracing technology, because frankly, COVID's changed the market essentially, you know, with big projects. The big projects just aren't there anymore. So if you're looking to leave, it's going to be to a smaller builder And I think a lot of smaller builders can separate themselves from others by getting on the front foot and explaining, just how they do things and why. Because everybody's doing something to think about the environment and their sustainability. They're talking to their clients about it every day. It's how they win work.
Yep.
But they don't.
Yep, it is.
They don't win. They don't communicate that to the employment market very well.
Yeah, it's much about what you do is what you stand for, isn't it? It's important. It's important to me when I'm thinking about organisations, and it's back to values and what do they stand for? What is their purpose? And I think that's really important as a message to relay to the market.
Yeah, I think that's people now can when they apply for a job somewhere, they're looking at your Instagram, they're looking at your Facebook, they're looking at your company LinkedIn. That they want to know who they're going for an interview with. They're checking out who they're meeting on LinkedIn. Where have they worked? What do they stand for? What have they built? And it's all, if someone's walking the door to Balmain & Co. and they know that they're building 20% affordable housing in this development, and they're going, oh, that's something I'm really excited to work on. And if they know that before they get in the door, then you're already a much more attractive business.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great point. Great point. So Jeff, when we think about companies now, we've got all these things around us that are changing. Is there action that companies can take right now to educate themselves and probably put themselves in a far better position to benefit from all these emerging trends that are around us, rather than feeling concerned or shackled by them?
Absolutely. The first thing I should be doing is talking to me and my experts at 460 degrees. It can be confusing, right? You may not know what technology to use or what do you need. So it can be a bit frightening at the start, but I think if you don't have that expertise internally, then you've got to go externally to get that and bring that into the business. That can absolutely transform you from a third-tier builder into a better performing builder, but you've got to get that support. And if you don't have it internally, find it externally. It exists. It always amazes me that these solutions are out there and companies are just not aware of them. So awareness is important. If this is an industry you're passionate about, you're working in, you're making your money out of this sector, you've got to be across what's happening. Get your finger on the pulse, understand the trends. What are the best performing builders in your tier doing? And how can you start to aspire to be more like that, whether it's culturally or technology based as well. Things are moving pretty quick, and it can be difficult to stay across that. So again, just make the effort, appoint an internal champion, embrace innovation, and you might have an innovation manager in the company, or appoint someone to that role and responsibility, and get them getting out there and engaging with vendors or trusted advisors like ourselves. And we're passionate about the industry too, so we want to help you be successful. Yeah. We want to help you adopt these technologies. And having been through the pain myself firsthand of using old school systems, I can tell you, the quicker you move to a digital transformation, the better off you'll be, the happier your clients will be, the smoother your projects, the more profit that you're able to make, and that can help elevate you into a different type of company. And you'll be a workplace that is attractive to all the emerging future people of our sector coming through. The ones that don't adopt into a digital transformation will definitely get left behind, and they'll find it a real struggle going forward. So you've got to embrace change.
You do, don't you? And take people on the journey. That's the other bit here, right? So we've got to take people on that journey. We've got enough time for questions, which is fantastic, and we've got some great questions from the audience that I wanted to ask all of you. So it's first in, best dressed. How does that sound? But the first one is a really good one. So what are the risks associated with construction industry players not having a tech adoption mindset? In other words, not embracing here. What's the risk to them?
I can probably jump in here. first of all, like what Matt was saying earlier, I think presenting yourself to win a job in the first place, half of it is going to be price-based. That we all know that. Everyone can probably get to a certain price. The other half of it is everything else. So other than your tick the box, you've signed off financials, the bank will approve you, you've got the systems in place, that's fine. But the things that will get you over the line will be those 1%ers. So what's your perception in the industry? Are you like, what is going to make it easier for that client to get the most transparency, the easiest reporting, the most live updates, what is Balmain or that construction industry, so that construction company doing to make sure that they're meeting our budgets and our deadlines, and all of that realistically comes back down to the programs and technology that you're using, that makes it as simple and easy as possible for the client to look at on, daily, weekly, whatever they want, to see exactly where their project's at, program budget wise, and all of the extra bits and pieces, the health and safety, all of those things. And I think if you're not using smart technology to manage those things, there's going to be a big question mark over you as to why not. I think especially health and safety wise, it's a huge one. If you're not already doing it, it's raising big question marks, and then we'll follow on from there. So whether it's your AConnects, your Procore, your pay apps, all of those things, it's question marks over you if you're not sort of leading that industry, I think. So that's also way.
Also really important to consider the transition between the built environment of the construction stage of the project and handing over to the operations and the ongoing FM, because with the digital twin or BIM, you're handing over a digital version of that building that can be developed and maintained over a long period of time. So, trying to hunt around in a plant room for outdated as-built drawings, now with a digital environment, the facility managers and the operators of that building have immediate access to everything that's digital in real time, and it makes managing that more affordable, and that's what the client will want. So if you want to keep happy clients, the risk is if you don't adopt these technologies, the client's not going to be happy, you're not going to be an employer of choice, your profitability is going to be impacted, your ability to win work will be impacted, and you'll fade away.
Yeah, no, good point. And I think I might start with Matt on this one, because this is really interesting. So the question is around, are some organisations reticent, are they hesitant to really help adopt a technology on a broader scale in their business because it has an impact on their core business? I relaying a conversation I had just yesterday with a CFO where the percentage of budget in a builder was like less than 1% that's applied to technology and digital transformation. So do you think there's a fear that by deploying technology that will have a disruption on what is their core business activity?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, and Jeff and Jess probably definitely know, a lot of tends to get put in the too hard basket. And I think it really just comes down to culture, doesn't it? If you've got an old school, just that old school sort of, we go to work, we work 70 hours a week, et cetera, then, it always becomes harder to implement new technologies, and businesses are hesitant to do that because they are worried about the disruption to the workforce. I think, how, some site managers or PMs who've been there 10, 15 years would take it. They're worried about losing those people if they push down new technologies on them and say, this is how we're doing things. I think there's definitely a lot of that, particularly in the, I guess, tier 2, tier 3 builder space. Obviously, sometimes you can't, you see the upfront cost and you think that, and it sounds like a lot, but over the journey and the life cycle of that contract, you'll save or make your life, 4, 5, 10 times easier. So you know, we speak to obviously companies every day, and there's some that are coming on the journey and who want to come on the journey and who are embracing that technology, and others who are, oh, we've just implemented this, so maybe we just, you know, let's give everybody a bit of time to go through it, and then we'll look at the next thing. And I think that it all comes back to culture. You know, that's everything when it comes down. You know, that's everything. It's the people. It's how you communicate the changes to your people as well, and how you let those people dictate your company's decisions. You know, at the end of the day, the business leader, it's your business. So I think people either come on the journey with you or they don't, right?
Okay, and you're right, and it's, you know, it's about what's critical in your business right now in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, and we've got understanding what that is. But this last question is a really interesting one, and I'm going to throw it to all three of you, which is around, so at what point within the next 5 years do you feel that subcontractors might become redundant if they don't adopt, you know, technology, and they don't think about digital transformation, and they don't think about how they use data more effectively in their business? It's a really good question.
It's great to focus on the subbies because, you know, like with builders, there's different tiers of subbies and they've got different capacity, and some have adopted technology and some have not. It's also about helping them on the journey as much as your internal team, because you need the subbies, you need the plumbers, the electricians, the civil guys out there to build these projects, and you've got to help them along that journey. The subbies that do that are open to that and that want to come on that journey with that builder will find that they're winning better quality jobs, they're doing work for better quality builders, they're getting paid on time, there's good margin in those projects. Again, it's transformational in their business. They can start to scale and grow their own companies. And I think, you know, the ones that, again, don't adopt to that model will end up doing, you know, the jobs that probably no one else really wants to do. They'll be difficult and they'll be a bit old school, and you know, they'll probably fall away from what the standard is in the industry, and you know, we have to maintain a very high bar there and make sure that we're operating a good sector with good standards and we're adopting technology. So yeah, I think we've got to bring the subbies along with that journey with us.
Great answer. Thank you. I do need to wrap up because we're going to move to the next phase. But look, Jess, Jeff, Matt, thank you so much. I think this audience would have been incredibly informed about what this workplace of the future looks like. So thank you very, very much for that. May I now introduce Scott Lockwood. And Scott is part of my team at PayApps. He's a senior account manager, and his focus is all around ensuring that we meet the needs of our customers and going a little bit above and beyond every single day and making sure we delight them every single day. What Scott's going to do is take us through how the PayApps platform adds significant value in the construction payments process, and we'll give you an opportunity also at the end just to ask some further questions around how that technology can enable this digital transformation that we've just been talking about for the last 40 minutes. So thank you, guys.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Tony. And can I say, guys, it's a bit of a tough act to follow. That was a terrific presentation. Just before I kick things off, guys, just want to make sure my screen's coming through okay there.
Yep.
Terrific. Okay. So just to introduce myself, as Tony touched on, I work in the customer success team here at PayApps, and really work with our customer base to optimise their experience on our platform. And today is going to be talking around some of the challenges within the current claim process, and I suppose looking at how this can be, as I said, enhanced and largely scale to help businesses grow at a faster rate. Okay, so some interesting themes came out of the last session, particularly Jeff's comments around the manual process. Interestingly enough, construction is still one of the industries that has traditionally been a little bit adverse to embracing technology. This scene that we see on this slide, this is actually a photo from a prospect of ours not all that long ago around their current process. So archive boxes full of payment schedules, and obviously the payment schedules have been printed out along with the claim information, working through a different set of numbers that the subby is typically sending through. So these are the conversations that we're having day in, day out, which surprisingly are still quite prevalent in the construction space. So that being said, we're going to really focus today on the progress claim process. As I've mentioned, it's typically been a very laborious manual process in the past, whereby subbies are sending through their own, I suppose, scorecard to a degree in a number of different formats to their head contractor. Which places, in our experiences, a fair bit of strain up the line on head contractors, whereby with constraints around SOPA compliance, trying to assess claims in a timely fashion, it can be incredibly difficult looking through the lens of a head contractor when they do have a number of claims coming through in different formats. But not only that, it's then chasing all the associated compliance info, which again needs to be captured to be compliant in the event that there is any adjudication or anything escalated down the line. And so what our platform, I suppose, that being said, what our platform really looks to do is create a uniform operating environment whereby the subcontractor and head contractor are effectively looking at the same scorecard. So to touch on our platform and I suppose give you a feel around what a user would typically be looking at, we can see here this interface is essentially a snapshot of our active projects. At the click of a button, we can see where our current contracts are, how many contracts we've got across the board. And I think really importantly, it harmonises the claim process whereby the required compliance information that comes through with a claim is accessible for your CAs and your PM at the time of assessment. And I know in my role working with our customer base, it's really rewarding when we do have feedback that one customer's example springs to mind whereby they mentioned that they can now process 30 claims within a couple of hours, whereas previously that same process would have taken 2 days. That really is rewarding for us because it knows it makes us feel that we really are making a tangible difference across the board. So jumping into what is PayApps and I suppose what the user face looks like. Jeff's comments in the last session were really quite interesting around, I suppose, the common operating way of doing things whereby CAs and subbies would typically be sending across their Excel spreadsheets, their own version of the truth, only to be printed out, worked through the assessment, rescanned up or rekeyed back into Excel, only to then be pushed across for the same process to happen at the subby side. So if we're looking at the interface here, the flexibility of the PayApps platform, which was developed by a construction professional. So our founder was very aware of these challenges firsthand, being a CFO at the end of the month, looking around for what we can build up the line. And I suppose being acutely aware of the challenges in terms of trying to have that visibility across the board from a claims perspective, and developed our platform to be able to address that issue. So coming back to what we're looking at here, Essentially, it's built in much the same fashion as Excel, with the same flexibility where a subby can enter the lines that they're going to be claiming against, and then the assessment happens in a much the same fashion down the line. Cool. So revisiting, I suppose, how we streamline the progress claim process. So probably the big thing that comes up more often than not is just to introduce that uniformity across the board. So operating out of the same platform, the same interface, really, I suppose, introducing a platform that's focused on collaboration as opposed to any issues down the line referring off, or I suppose looking at conflicting and unreconciled figures. Interestingly enough, the platform is exactly the same for head contractors and subbies alike. So really, I suppose, again, trying to foster that communication. In terms of the flexibility of retention, it's calculated automatically and it's compliant for SOPA across Australia, and also the retention settings have now been tweaked to be in accordance with legislation in New Zealand, which is quite exciting. As I mentioned earlier, the compliance docs come through with the claim, and that's probably a big area for our customer base, because the claim information coming through is one thing, but the fact that our platform harmonises and really packages the two coming through at the same time, that's probably one of the biggest value adds for our platform and the feedback that we get across our customer base. That's it from me. I really wanted to first of all thank everyone for tuning in today. I've got a couple of questions coming through by the look of things, but once again, really wanted to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you're a head contractor who's interested in exploring how you might be able to streamline your existing claims process, in the previous session we touched on it's the businesses that do typically embrace technology that are the ones that are able to scale their processes quickly, and that's certainly come into focus more so over the last 6 months. So thanks again, and we'll jump into questions now. So I've got a question through: how easy is it to deploy and implement PayApps, and how widely is it used? That's a great question. In terms of the deployment of PayApps, unlike some enterprise software which would typically need, I suppose, a little bit more of a lengthy implementation period involving scoping, project delivery, and then wrap up, flexibility of PayApps is you can deploy it within a matter of minutes, and it's really been designed to have that user centricity, or sorry, user that ease of use at the front of mind. In terms of how widely is it used, the flexibility of the platform means that we've got a presence in, I suppose, the tier 1 and tier 2 commercial space, right down through to tier 3 and also civil contractors. Terrific. It looks like that's it from the questions. So once again, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of the show.